Evening. Welcome to Cabinet. It's the 9th of October. Can I just remind everybody to make sure your phones are on silent or switched off? If you speak for the first time on any item, can you please give your name and who you are, just in case people are dropping in and out from the live stream. We won't be reading the recommendations out in full, as usual, for the papers, unless there have been amendments. And I think then we just move on to any apologies. I don't think there are any. Kate? No. So the minutes of the previous meeting, 9th of September 2025. Do any members of the Cabinet have any issues with the accuracy? No. Just trying to see where everybody is. No. Any declarations of interest on the items of the agenda? No, not seeing anybody there. No. Okay, so item 4, public participation. There are 2 questions from the public. So Mr. Chopping, good to see you again, sir. You can go first.
Thank you. I'm Geoffrey Chopping, and although I am a Holt Parish Councillor, I'm not asking this question on behalf of Holt Parish Council. Following a community governance review, all of the Firs Hill settlement and its surrounding area are now part of Holt Parish, and therefore the Firs Hill settlement, with its defined settlement boundaries within the Green Belt, can neither be legally described as being part of the Wimborne Minster and Coal Hill settlement, nor part of Wimborne Minster or Coal Hill parishes. In the current Dorset Council local plan consultation, some settlements are listed for Tiers 1 and Tiers 2 within the text, whilst Tier 3 settlements are listed in Figure 3.2. Firs Hill is not included among those settlements. Paragraph 3.2.8 states, all other areas are either rural in character or comprise small villages / hamlets that do not have sufficient services or facilities for everyday needs to be met locally. These areas are unlikely to be suitable for growth in line with national policy. This is consistent with national policy, as although Firs Hill has a village store, it is generally remote from existing infrastructure and facilities in Wimborne. However, 4 sites totalling over 500 homes that appear in the subordinate Appendix A touch or are very close to the Firs Hill settlement boundaries. The Strategic Housing Land Availability Assessments confirm the unsuitability of these 4 sites because of the remoteness and accessibility issues. All 4 also happen to be within the Green Belt, although that was only mentioned for one of the 4. Conclusion. The exclusion of the legally recognised separate Firs Hill settlement from Tiers 1, 2 and 3 as listed within the Dorset Council Local Plan Consultation 2025 automatically excludes the Firs Hill settlement from significant development other than that proposed in the 2014 core strategy document. Question. Will Dorset Council please confirm the above conclusion or supply its legal reasoning for rejecting it? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. Councillor Bartlett will answer.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Chopping, for your question. To date, we've received just over 2,000 submissions in response to the consultation, and Councillor Chopping's concerns will be considered as part of the development of the local plan, along with all others, and not singled out for response outside of the formal consultation.
That was your answer. I'm afraid you don't get a supplementary. The next question is from Karen Tippins, who's online, I believe. Ms. Tippins, are you there?
Yes, hi. So my name's Karen Tippins. I'm a resident of Shaftesbury. So further to my Cabinet question of the 29th of July, I'm writing in light of the report listed under Agenda number 12. It is now clear from this report that the Shaftesbury Town Council proposal has changed materially since the original approved in October 2024. The project cost has risen from 876,000 to approximately 1.44 million, an increase, as I stated back in July, of over approximately £500,000, and several key conditions set by Cabinet in October 2024 have only been partially met. The report in Agenda 12 states now that the Town Council proposal is only 78% funded. This proves that the decision made in October 2024 by Cabinet was based on a flawed S106 submission that then claimed 100% funding. The proposal now includes, as I stated in July, a requirement to resubmit a new planning application to Dorset Planning, which complies with building and health and safety regulation and a revised parking layout due to residents' complaints. However, importantly, on the 11th of March 2025, full council at Shaftesbury Town Council passed a resolution formally requesting that Dorset Council reconsider the basis of the Town Council proposal and instead switch to the STC funding to the tried and tested Stour Pane Hall proposal led by architect Barry Coop. As you remember, that also had planning consent. This concept had over 700 residents signed in a petition, with the parking arrangements already endorsed by local residents. This alternative scheme was fully costed, deliverable, no shortfalls of funding, and would fulfil the S106 purpose of providing a community facility located in the east of Shaftesbury. To date, there has been no evidence that the Cabinet were consulted on the 11th of March 2025 Town Council resolution, which says, submit a request to Dorset Council to advise how they would consider adopting the architect Barry Coop's design for Manpits Hall. As it was known and published by the Town Council, the STC proposal was not building control and or health and safety compliant from the architect responses. Plus, all the architect companies stated that the S106 estimates stated by the Town Council were flawed and shortfalls were quoted of £500,000, and that was back in January. The Cabinet paper also introduces the hall's first floor for employment purposes, stating that Dorset Council are to use this hall and the S106 contributions for a Dorset Council family hub. No resident has asked for this, the first floor and also the employment, and they've not, by Dorset Council, and is inconsistent with the developer's contribution for contractual terms. In addition, the Cabinet paper proposes an early drawdown of 10% of the S106 funds, which is approximately 90,000, before conditions of the awards have been satisfied. This weakens the financial safeguards and exposes the councils to avoidable risks, particularly when the proposal already faces a funding deficit and untested delivery model. The cafe element also mirrors the Newton Abbot Community Hub Cafe, which closed only after 5 years, demonstrating how fragile such operating assumptions can be. So my question is as follows: given that the Town Council proposal is now significantly under budget, underfunded, and dependent on a revised planning consent, and it includes the Dorset Family Hub tenancy, which is inconsistent with community use requirements and ignores the Town Council's own resolution numbered F134, why is the Dorset Council not acting on the Shaftesbury Town Council resolution and formally evaluating the allocation rather than extending milestones and approving early drawdown of a project whose costs scope and purpose have materially changed? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Councillor Bartlett will be answering this one as well.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you for your question, Mr. Pins. Section 106 funding for the delivery of the community facilities at Manpits Green was conditionally awarded to Shaftesbury Town Council in October 2024. Agenda item 12 provides an update in respect of all funding conditions and is based on information provided by Shaftesbury Town Council. Section 4 of the report, subtitled Alternative Options Considered, addresses the option of withdrawing the funding offer. The report states that withdrawal would reset the process for applying for Section 106, causing significant delay to the delivery of the development. Given the already prolonged history to this project, further substantial delay would have knock-on implications for build cost and other associated cost increases, adding further risk associated with delivery. The report demonstrates that progress has been made in lots of different areas, but several key conditions, including those associated with the budget and project delivery, remain partially completed, therefore failing to meet in full the milestones that were set. The milestone extensions proposed in the report recommendation serve to provide further time to enable key stages in the project to be addressed, improving the likelihood of delivery.
Thank you, Councillor Bartlett, and obviously we're discussing this later in the agenda. So the next item is questions from members, with no questions received. Item 6 is the forward plan, which is in the papers. Any member of the Cabinet wish to comment on the forward plan? No, don't say anything. So the first of many papers on this quite long agenda tonight, as we know. So item 7 is Dorset Council Transformation Investment Update, our future council, and it's presented by Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. Ben Wilson, South East Purbeck Ward, portfolio holder for corporate development and transformation. The paper before you is as in the title, it's a request for further investment in the Our Future Council programme. The total investment requested at this point is 12.4 million, which splits down roughly between 7.9 million of spend in the next half of the year, take us up to the end of March, and then commitment of a further 4.5 million resulting from that spend, which I'll explain. The spend itself is predominantly focused on technology spend and on technologies that have been planned and were included in the original business case for our future council put forward in January this year. The technologies in question are focused on the customer hub and improving automation within that customer hub. The ERP, which is our finance system, it's our core system in the council that covers finance, HR, procurement and payroll. And then other supporting technologies around automation and a council-wide booking system. In addition to those technologies, there's also a request for investment in internal resource, which is very much required in order to deliver the transformation, and also in the redundancy costs of 2.5 million resulting from some of the reorganisation that's previously been approved by this Cabinet. As I say, this is a continuation of the work that's been done to date. The last 9 months have been focused on delivering the organisation that required for the customer hub, the business support hub, and also the transformation office, the council-wide transformation office that will be critical for taking us further on this journey. Why are we asking for this investment now? From a customer perspective, it is to bring the organisation work that's already taken place together with the technology to really drive the benefits of the new structures, to drive automation and to improve the customer services delivery for our residents. From an ERP perspective, from a finance system perspective, this is very necessary investment to keep us on track with the critical path. Just to remind everyone, we need to replace our finance system by the end of 2027, our existing finance system basically goes out of service at that point, and therefore we are on a critical path, and we need to move forward on that path. And as I say, the internal resources, internal and external resources investment is required to deliver those changes. Very briefly, to end, what I just want to bring everyone up to speed on is potentially some of the changes that have happened to our future council, partially as a result of bringing in our new chief executive, but also from learnings that the team and myself have achieved over the last few months doing this work. One of the critical changes, and really this investment reflects that, is the need to bring technology more integrated with the organizational changes, especially in our customer hub, but also critically with our finance system. So we're evolving the program, we're evolving the approach as we learn through experience. But going forward, you can expect to see the finance system, the organizational changes and the technology changes really being very much integrated and discussed as one program. What you'll also notice from the paper is that the benefits profile for this year that we projected back in January has changed. The benefits have moved from a total envelope or target of 10 million down to 6.7 million. Now, some of this changes as a result of timing changes. We're perhaps a few months later than we were intending to be in doing some of this work. Some of it has resulted from changes of scope. The number of roles and the amount of change we put through the organisation so far has been reduced from what we originally intended. I think the critical point to make here is our target remains the same. Our target has always been to achieve an annual saving of 18.8 million by 2028, and that remains the same, and that's unchanged. What I should also add is our investment envelope has actually gone down. We've gone down from 48 million to 34 million. So there is a net change in our benefits profiling. And the last thing just to add, and it is reflected in the paper, is that another change, and a very positive change, is that we have continually been reviewing and trying to strengthen the governance over this programme. Very much now being shifted towards a one council approach. And part of that is in strengthening the design authority that sits above all of these changes and ensures that we take a very integrated view on the impact on the council going forward. So that's all I wanted to say on that. I'm very happy to take any questions.
Can you propose the recommendations?
And I propose recommendations.
I believe Councillor Clifford's going to second this.
Very happy to second. I'll come in at the end, if that's okay.
So thank you for the comprehensive introduction to the paper, Councillor Wilson. Anybody got any questions? Councillor Jesperson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for that this comprehensive report, which is interesting reading. I have three very brief questions, if I may, but before I ask them, I'm going to say, and Lisa, you won't be surprised to hear me say this yet again, you know, some of the language in this report is pretty opaque for members of the public. These reports are issued to the public. Now, I understand it all, but, you know, I've got an MBA. I think many of my residents would get a quarter of the way through this and then fall off their perch. Could I request that, of course, you have to write proper technical reports. Could we have a simplified summary for those people who don't want to plough through this kind of technical language? That would be very helpful. Thank you very much. My questions are, the first two questions, I'm very happy to have an answer in writing to this at an appropriate time. So the first thing is the reference to the design authority. Could I know who sits on the design authority, and how does the design authority interact with or relate to the Member Transformation Steering Committee. In other words, who sits on the Design Authority and how do those two parts of the governance work together? And the second question is, how many full or part-time establishment posts, not interims, have been created to take forward the Our Future Council project? And how many of these posts have been filled internally, and how many have been recruited from outside? And as I say, very happy to have that in writing. My third question, which you might be able to answer now, is the redundancy programme, the staff redundancy programme, running to schedule, or is it delayed? And the focus of that question is, of course, if it is being delayed, then that is going to be putting our staff under increased stress and pressure. And the danger always is that with the sort of uncertainty that creates, you lose some staff who move on, who you might otherwise wanted to have kept. So is the redundancy programme running to schedule? Is it a bit delayed? And if it is delayed, can we be sure that we're managing the impact of that on our staff as well as we possibly can? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. I'll let Councillor Wilson decide which ones will be written and not.
Or which ones I'll throw over. If I could start with the third question, as you rightly say, yes, it is running to schedule. As I sort of explained in brief, there have been some changes in approach. But the timetable that was originally communicated, roughly, there have been a few, we've given an extra couple of weeks here and there to allow the proper process. I think that's the most important point. There has been a lot of listening to the staff who are impacted, and it has been given the proper amount of time so that it's not rushed. But it is, by and large, running to schedule. As regards to question one, I mean, in brief, I will throw over to the officers to explain the Design Authority, as that's an officer-led part of the governance. From my perspective, the member transformation steerco, the role of that is just as it sounds. It is to steer. It is to review decisions that come out of the Design Authority. And to provide member input. There are some, I mean, it's quite interesting, and again, it's a learning point. There are some elements of this programme that are very much internally focused, very much officer focused, and actually as members, we probably don't actually have that much real input. But there are other elements that will impact our residents. And on those elements, we need to, as members, and that's where the member steering committee becomes critical, we need to make sure that our input is in there. But also, in addition to that element of the steer, it's also about ensuring that the programme is staying on track and really bringing some advice to the officers as well. I don't know who... yes, on the Design Authority point, I'll hand over to Nina.
Thank you, councillors. Lisa Cotton, Corporate Director for Customer Transformation and Cultural Services. As Ben has said, the Design Authority is officer membership, but absolutely reports up into that Member Transformation Steering Group. It is a really widespread membership across the organisation, so each of the directorates are represented there, as well as key people around design, around our people and workforce, around our organisational development. So we're really thinking about how we look at proposals, how we align change across the organisation, and how we're really thinking in that one council way. So we're really starting to get excited about how we do that, and as Ben says, we're making sure that that reports up into the Transformation Steering Group.
Fine. Okay. Anybody else? No? Members of Cabinet? Councillor Andrews?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor John Andrews, Sherborne East, and Cabinet Member for Place Services. Can I just ask a couple of questions? Given the changes in timeline and approach regarding the technology, are we still committed to PwC operating model that we signed off in January?
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. In short, yes. The operating model, which was not included in this paper again, it still holds. And some of the key tenets of the operating model, as I've mentioned, are the customer hub and the business support hub. The one that's missing, perhaps, is the strategic and enabling work, which I won't go into now, but that's another element of it. I think it's an important point to note or two important points to note. One is we never said in the operating model that we were going to centralise everything. That was never the key principle of the operating model. We will centralise where it's appropriate, but it's more about making sure we've got the right definition and structures around the different elements of the operating model. And so absolutely, we remain committed to that. I think the second point, as I've explained, our journey to getting to that operating model probably is evolving and is changing as we're learning. And we can see that with bringing the technology in. But ultimately, with the direction remains the same.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wilson. Given that the majority of this investment relates to technology, are we confident that we have the right capabilities to deliver it?
I think part of the paper and it lists out some of the key principles that we are adopting as the programme. A couple of those principles relate to capabilities, and they focus very much on the fact that we do need to use externals to support us build internal capability, and that is the part of the investment we're requesting today. So do we have all those capabilities today? Probably not. An example is one of the investments for technology is around what's called robotic process automation, or robotics for short. There may be pockets of robotics that are used already in Dorset Council, but as you use a technology more, you need to support that technology more, and therefore we need to build those capabilities so that we develop something that's sustainable. So I think it is going to be a journey of increasing those capabilities, using those third parties now, but lessening that third-party investment as we go. So we should see a reduction in third parties and an increase in the internal capabilities as we progress through the next year.
Our Chief Exec wishes to comment as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, just to reinforce what Councillor Wilson has said there, which is that it's absolutely vital if we're going to create an organisation which is modern and is dependent on technology, that we're growing those capabilities ourselves. So while it's been incredibly valuable to have external support to get to a certain point, this paper is very much about how do we start to invest in ourselves and grow that capability, because at the end of this programme we want to be able to use this stuff and have that homegrown skill and capacity rather than being dependent on third-party spend.
Thank you. Anybody else want to ask a question? Councillor Hope.
Yeah, thank you very much, Leader. Councillor Ryan Hope, Western Ward, Weymouth, and Cabinet Member for Customer, Culture and Community Engagement. And I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this question I'm going to ask. It's probably one word, 3 letters, but I feel I've got to ask it. And that is, can I just have assurance still that the customer hub, being our front door for our residents, is still fully aligned to our customer strategy that we've adopted as a council? As whilst it's important that we look to remodel to become as efficient as possible and save money and work in a smarter way, the priority for me, in my position on Cabinet representing the customer, is that our customer has the best access, the most easy access, and gets the answer they want as soon as possible.
Thank you, Councillor Hope. Absolutely. So our customer strategy is there, and we adopted that strategy absolutely for the purpose of ensuring that we're designing all of our principles, those design principles around how we interact with our customers, how we design our future technology, really understanding our customer insight is at the heart of that. So what our customers tell us on a day-to-day basis that they need from us and how they need to work with us. So that customer strategy is informing how we will work in the future. And all of our customer experts in the organisation, of which we have very many, are helping us on that journey. So they are informing that process as we design.
Councillor Robinson.
Hi, Steve Robinson, Lichfield and Upton Ward, portfolio holder for adult social care. We're just about to go through the budget discussions, as we well know, in the next few weeks and months. Can I ask, at what point are we going to get a revised investment case coming forward with some idea of timescales? And when might we actually see the programme achieving its original ambitions financially?
I mean, I'll answer that, and then I'll ask the officers to chip in. That work has already started. I think, as I mentioned, we're now we are taking a whole council approach, and that's about understanding what transformation needs to take place across the full council. The reality of that is, until we go through the budget process and the level of interrogation that the budget process brings, we won't have a clear sense of what that transformation is across the full council, and therefore what the full investment and savings case is for our future council for next year. We obviously, have to deal with degrees of accuracy. That's really the gold standard in being able to say this is the budgeted for. As in future years, we obviously need to project those out as well. There are, as I say, some changes in approach going forward, and we need to bottom out what that means from that budget profile. To put I would hope by December we would have a clear enough view of the budget. My colleague for finance behind me might ask for it earlier. I'm not sure.
So just to build again on what Councillor Wilson said, and Councillor Clifford may want to chip in as well, is that what we're in the process of doing is really aligning the budget process, what we've got in terms of the investment and trajectory for our future council, but also very importantly, that implementation of the ERP system, which is a massive piece of work. So where I'm intending us to get to is where we've got the very clear financial line of sight for how all of those things align. And also that we're using the budget process to uncover the opportunities for transformation that may well be delivered via our future council. I've been very grateful to the way that colleagues have leaned into this in order to say there are tremendous opportunities by having a programme which is ambitious as our future council. We've created a transformation vehicle that we can then feed those ideas into. So what you'll start to see, is my intention, is that as we go through the budget process, that transformational activity is very tightly wired into that and very visible. But that's quite a big change for how the organisation's done it before. So we're working at speed to deliver this in a very different way. And that's partly why this is a 6-month investment case, because we need to get to our next major set of milestones, reassure ourselves that we are on the direction of travel, we're on the path at the speed that we think we are, but also that we've really understood all of those opportunities and also where we actually need to invest, which come out of that budgeting process.
Anybody else? No? In which case, does any member of the Cabinet? Simon?
Just as a seconder, just to do a quick sum up, if that's okay, Leader. So Simon Clifford, Cabinet Member for Finance and Capital Strategy. I'd like to thank the very hard-working and talented staff who have taken on this enormous challenge and are doing their very best to deliver it. I'm particularly pleased that the new Chief Executive has come in and absolutely owned this transformation programme, taking on very personal input, and I think that's incredibly helpful. With a programme of this size, it needs challenge and there is tension, and I am renowned, I think, with the team as a healthy sceptic in this area. So again, I like to thank the team who put up with me and the questioning, and I know that my blunt words sometimes do cause offence. So I'm trying to do my best for authority, and I know everyone is here. I have absolute confidence that the benefits will be delivered, the 6.7 will be delivered, largely there already. My plea is keep pushing. That is your minimum, and you must push. 18.8 is a target, it is not a ceiling, and we must hit that recurrently because that will then pay for everything. The fact that we are delivering savings with reduced investment, the same level of savings with reduced investment, is great to see. This is an exciting programme. It's a very hard and challenging programme. It's extremely difficult and complex. It will result in a better council for our staff, a better council for our residents, and a more sustainable and modernised council. So I'm thoroughly behind it and happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Clifford. In which case, any Cabinet member disagree with the recommendations as laid out in the paper? No, in which case the recommendations are approved. Thank you. And we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is item 8. I don't need to remind you that we got outstanding in Ofsted earlier this year. This is a paper about what we were doing afterwards, and Councillor Sutton is going to introduce it.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Claire Sutton, Robwell and Wyke Ward in Weymouth, Cabinet Member for Children's Services, Education and Skills. So, as I'm sure everyone is aware of the 4 subcategories in our Ofsted judgment, we attained outstanding for 3 of them. The 4th subcategory was experience and progress of care leavers, which was rated good. So, needless to say, the action plan, now updated, focuses on that. It's been co-produced with care experienced young people through workshops within the Corporate Parenting Board. You've read the paper, so I'm not going to go into great detail regurgitating it. I just want to draw attention in particular to how we're strengthening targeted support for young parents who are care leavers, as set out in 4.5, because that is particularly close to my corporate parent heart. Corporate grandparent heart, indeed, potentially. So in this arena, we're now providing dedicated one-to-one support through our family workers to these young parents. Our care leavers have priority access to Empowering Parents, Empowering Communities programme. I can provide more detail on that, but it's in the paper, so you probably don't need me to. Thirdly, working closely with partners to identify care leaver-friendly GP surgeries where all practice staff are trauma-informed, trauma-trained, and also ensure targeted, enhanced midwifery support is in place. And finally, our lead education, employment and training PA develops relationships with and provides mentoring support to all care leavers who are parents, and we're really now seeing the impact of this. So, subject to any questions, I'd like to propose the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sutton. Councillor Robinson is going to second.
Yes, Chair, very happy to second.
Open up to the floor. Any questions on this paper? No. Nobody. Okay, that was quick. So in which case, does anybody disagree? Any member of the Cabinet disagree with the recommendations as laid out? No. In which case, the recommendations are approved. Thank you. So item number, I'll close that down. Item number 9 is the Aspire Adoption Annual Report, which, as it says, is an annual report, and that's Councillor Sutton again.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So briefly, this is an annual report provided by the Regional Adoption Agency, Aspire, which covers Dorset Council and BCP, hosted by BCP Council. I'll keep it brief because you've read it. The highlights for me are that Aspire is only one of 4 regional adoption agencies nationally which has a positive adopter gap, which means that we have more approved adopters than we have children on the waiting list. Secondly, our timeliness continues to outperform national averages, with children placed significantly faster than the England average. And in 24-25, 92% of children placed for adoption were matched with Aspire adopters. So that means that these adoption placements are more local. We have greater influence over the quality of practice, and indeed, they are cheaper. Touching on kinship care, what we call kinship care, special guardianship service, moving from Aspire back into our fostering team. We've had positive feedback from courts and families, particularly in relation to the introduction of a single assessment, and a significant increase, this is great, of children being made subject to a special guardianship order. So the 6 months from October 24 to February 25, there's only one child, and from February 25 to August 25, that was 11 children. So this is kids, fundamentally, that are going to live with, granny, granddad, etc. So staying within the family, so that's excellent. And finally, since this report was completed, we now have a new head of Aspire, a new Aspire head of service. That's Jenny Ness over here. Jenny has a wealth of experience in regional adoption agencies and has supported national innovations in adoption over the past 10 years. And yeah, as I say, she's with us this evening, and I'm sure we'll be delighted to help with any questions. I've only attended one meeting with her thus far, but was extremely impressed. And welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Sutton. This report is for noting, so I don't think it requires a seconder. It does it? No. Any questions? No, we don't need a vote, it's just for noting, so thank you, Councillor Sutton, for presenting it. Item 10, this is Get Dorset and BCP Working Plan, and Councillor Biggs is going to present this.
Thank you. Yes, Richard Biggs, Dorset to Poundbury, and Cabinet Member for Property Assets and Economic Growth. This is an extremely long report and papers that go with this, and for good reason, because it's a report that's got to go to government. The working plan has to be quite detailed to show how we're going to do it. Some of the data behind it is actually factually quite interesting. I don't know if you had a chance to read some of the analysis that the Chamber have done for us. Essentially, what we're trying to do, or what the government's trying to do, DUWP, is to get to 80% employment between 18 and I think it's 66, isn't it? You can see that we're about 5 percentage points, roughly, or just very below that. But interestingly, Cornwall is only just marginally worse than us. That surprised me, actually, because I think you always think Cornwall being incredibly difficult to employ people out of season. So that's perhaps a bit of a wake-up call that we face just many of the challenges, particularly in Dorset, because that's a pan-Dorset. This, I should add, is a pan-Dorset report, includes BCP as well. The good news is this work plan that we have to do for this, because we're below that 80% region, is zero cost to the council. That's not to say that I think all of us perhaps may think there is some risk in the future that it could include some costs to us because of the rurality, that there may not be sufficient funds to cover that. But there is money coming down, passported down directly from government, which is unusual. So that's to be welcome sort of devolution, really, isn't it? The main benefits, as I see it, are addressing the labour market inactivity, better matching skills to local needs, improved employment support services, local economic growth and productivity, opportunities for employers, potential long-term savings for welfare and benefits, and a chance to reduce inequalities if we do it right. And you will see from the makeup of the board, it does cover numerous areas. So we're working with the NHS Job Centre Plus, etc., and the colleges across the board, as well as the councils, but it's Dorset Council who are the lead authority on it. So there are some detailed recommendations, 5 recommendations, I believe, all there, and very happy to take questions. I imagine there may be others, but I do propose that and look for a seconder.
Thank you, Councillor Biggs. Councillor Sutton's going to second.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just very briefly, I think this is certainly exciting and complicated. But just to illuminate why children's services are especially involved in this, and it's the cohort of our young people aged 18 to 25 who will particularly, we hope, benefit from this. So of those 18 to 25-year-olds, it's our care leavers, it's our young people with disabilities under birth to settled adulthood, and also our young carers. So that's the cohort that my particular lens is especially focused on. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Sutton. Councillor Leary, put his hand up first.
Thank you very much. Reading through the document is incredibly long. Very simple question to begin with. Are we funding this, or is this completely funded by central government? And if we're funding it, how much is it costing us?
We're not funding it. It's come from central government. I believe the figure is 125,000, which has been given us for the work plan, and I think 25,000 has been given to BCP for officer time for their side of the report. Officers will correct me if that's wrong.
Nick Webster, Head of Growth and Regeneration. That's correct, Councillor Biggs. In addition, there's about £9.1 million that's been identified through the Connect to Work scheme as well, which is, again, central government funded.
Sorry, are you saying we spent 200 grand on a report? You said £25,000 from BCP and officer time towards this report, and 125 grand or 175 grand towards us. Is that just to fund the initial report, that £200,000? Because obviously £200,000 for a job relief scheme is pennies really, but 200 grand for a report is quite a lot of money.
So it's 125,000, and that includes the 25 for BCP officer time, isn't it?
That's correct, yeah. So we've received £125,000 from central government to effectively pull together this work and a range of further work that will go on beyond this initial report. We've commissioned the Chamber to help us deliver this through the Local Skills Innovation Partnership. So we're doing that work with the Chamber, but beyond that, there'll be an element that will go on towards future delivery.
So it's about 150 grand then, all together, or 125 grand, sorry. 125 grand. So now the report has been written, how much of that is left?
50 grand's left. So sorry, my apologies. We've spent 50 grand in commissioning the Chamber, but the BCP have had £25,000 in terms of officer time, to fund their officer time in producing some of the information required behind this and helping support the work of the Chamber and other partners in pulling together the report and further work around the steering group. So we spent £75,000 to date. We've got £50,000 remaining.
Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Andrew Parry, West Parley Ward, and Leader of the Conservative Group. My one concern whenever we seem to have joint arrangements with BCP Council is, and I reflected on the warm words of Aspire adoption, but I do remember it was quite a battleground to ensure that rural Dorset got its more than fair share of resource when the focus seemed to gravitate towards the urban area of BCP. Could I get some understanding from the Cabinet member and from officers how we are going to be able to measure our effectiveness in those rural parts of Dorset, which after all is what we are here to serve?
Clearly, the Skills Board is made up from all parties, and it's very much upon those to make sure that we make sure the best outcomes for Dorset. I think it's particularly to be noted that we have somebody from the digital skills team, because we know that we've got a problem with rurality in digital connections and those sort of issues, and that some people actually won't be able to do online courses, etc. So we need to make adjustments so that we don't lose out, whereas BCP, I would imagine, are pretty well connected, one would hope.
I think the only thing I'd add to that is we're the lead authority for this as a piece of work. So we've got the ability to influence where some of that money is spent, how we implement it. We can obviously work with our partners. This isn't just ourselves and BCP. This is about the DWP. It's about the NHS. They're all co-signatories to the plan. So between those four organisations, we can ensure that we do make sure that all of Dorset is covered through its implementation.
Okay, Councillor Parry. Any other questions? Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. We spoke before the meeting, and with regard to one of the recommendations of delegation in consultation with Cabinet Member for Property, Assets and Economic Growth and Cabinet Member for Children's Services, Education and Skills, which is great, I'm feeling a little left out. One of our priorities within adult social care is working with working age adults and helping people of working age to get back into work, but also helping people who wish to carry on working but are facing challenges. So developing, as part of age-friendly communities, which we'll be talking about later at length, I warn you, about providing opportunities for employers to become age-friendly. So would it be possible for us to be included in those discussions? I'm sure it would.
I mean, we had quite a lot of discussion with officers about membership and who should be involved, and whether adults need to be in the conversation. Whether they need to be permanently on that board is another matter. But I think there's certainly many aspects which perhaps sit outside that, the integrated care board, etc. Where they could have influence and are doing things in that field. So what we don't want is unnecessary duplication. So I think that needs to be taken on board, really. Okay.
Totally accept that. I can shout quite loudly from quite a long distance away. But no, totally accept your point and agree with you.
Any other, Councillor Clifford?
Councillor Simon Clifford, Cabinet Member for Finance. I just want to get a bit of clarity on the funding. So 125,000 will create a plan. That plan will then be used to help nearly 1,000 people a year over the next 4 to 5 years with a grant behind it of £9.3 million. That's the money that is spent to advance people and give them a chance to get into work. Have I read that right?
Yes, it's that programme that actually delivers those work services, and it's actually while people are in work as well. It's not just here's some help finding a job. It's actually going to support those people in work and to make sure that they're getting what they are supposed to be doing. So it's quite unique, actually. It's a bit like some of the schemes that were done in the 1980s, perhaps, which were actually followed people through and actually supported them and gave employers support as well, if it works as it says.
I'd just like to add, I'm a great supporter of spending a little bit of money and leaving in great benefit.
Thank you, Councillor Clifford. Any other questions? I don't see anybody else. No. Does any member of the Cabinet disagree with the recommendations as laid out, the 5 of them? No. In which case, the recommendations are approved. Thank you. So item 11 is Dorset Council's farm strategy, and that's Councillor Biggs as well.
Thank you very much. It gives me great pleasure to present the farm estate strategy. A lot of work's gone into this. I'm looking at Councillor Fry, Jefferson Sumper, other members were involved in that. And I really thank everyone for a really detailed report and really challenging issues. I would say from the outside a statement in as much as we value the farm estate and the principle of retention, but like all our state, it is constantly under review and meets our objectives, provides value for all. I think that some of the key points is that we looked at great length at the period of time for starter farms and progression farms to try and get that balance right. And it is really difficult because, you know, it's all about investment. If it's too short, you can't get a bank loan to do things. But if it's too long, then you're not getting that churn of new entrants into the farming industry. And we appreciate, you know, there are some real challenges, as we're fully aware of, that farmers have at this time, and particularly getting into the industry. Cost of land is really horrendous. Behind it, obviously, there's a lot of facts, financial information, which is, you know, I love all that sort of stuff, graphs and things, but it tells you, you know, the value of that land is value. It's a valuable asset. So there's no intention to have some big fire sale, I can assure everyone. But that said, we do look at the whole estate, and if it doesn't meet certain criteria, we will consider selling things if that situation should arrive to generate capital receipts. But yeah, I think it's some really good work within there. The previous one had expired some 21, I think, so long overdue. And the work of the panel, I know we've missed, apologies, this meeting that we were supposed to have. It's been expended partly because of this and for staffing issues. But we are meeting more regularly, and we want to now get on. This is adopted down to some of the details within it regarding some of the empty farms which have been empty for too long, and improving some of the management, which has perhaps not been as good as we would like it to be. As always, these things take a lot of time, and there's certainly £12 million of investment is required in the farming state, which has got to be found. So yes, very happy to propose the main recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Biggs. I will second that. As members will know, we reformed the farm panel last year. It became very clear it wasn't fit for purpose in the way it was operating, and it's good to see that we've got this strategy coming out of it. So Councillor Fry had his hands up first, and then it'll be Councillor Christopher, and then Councillor Somper, and then Councillor Brown. Okay.
Thank you, Leader. Les Fry, Dorchester West, and Vice Chair of the Farms Panel. This plan has been in the making for a few years now, firstly with Savills having an input and offering guidance to members about the future of the Council Farms. Then the current panel has worked closely with officers to consider the implications of the length of tenancies granted by Dorset Council to future farm tenants. The issues are significant. If tenancies too short and prospective tenants don't have time to build up stock or capital, obtain grants, borrow or repay loans. Give too long a tenancy and you restrict the number of new applicants entering farming. The panel has bounced the issues and solution around for several months now, considering the pros and cons. None are perfect or easy. We have built in to allow for exceptional circumstances should the need arise and a tenant make a good case for staying longer. But we do think that the paper before Dorset Council here this evening offers the best way forward, taking into account all the possibilities and options. However, if adopted, then as a responsible landlord, we must perform better with improved communications, better support when required, and carry out our duties with maintenance and repairs where appropriate. I do ask and encourage you all to support this paper. It is a pretty good document and will help our prospective farmers and tenants plan for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fry. I should have mentioned before I introduce questions, there was a statement from the Tenants Farmers Association, which has been published on the website or the agenda pages for this meeting. So, Councillor Christopher, you are next.
Good evening, Councillor Simon Christopher, Dorset Councillor for the Marshall Vale Ward. Could I ask the Deputy Leader, and I'm aware that a week is a long time in politics, did he attend any business gathering? Did the Deputy Leader attend any business gatherings last Wednesday? And if so, where was he?
So, Councillor Christopher, how is that relevant to the paper? Can you clarify?
He's shaking his head because if he, like me, had attended the National Dairy Show at the Bath and West Showground last Wednesday, he would have found an industry in turmoil. And for that reason, Dorset County farmers, the county farm estate farmers, need every support and where necessary, every assistance with their rent. And I stress this because the county farms estate is a feeder ground for farmers to go on to larger farms, very often with farmers going on to be tenants of the Crown estate. Would the Deputy Leader say that enough attention is actually given in this chamber to rural areas when there is so much decline? There is so much decline in this county. And do not look at me just like that, because there is so much decline. And if I look around the chamber, I don't see any councillors from Bridport, but if there were councillors from Bridport, maybe they'll be talking about the job losses that arise from the closure of a company that's been in existence.
Councillor Christopher, I don't think that business is closed. It had anything to do with farming. There was a long-established family business, so I'm led to believe. Do you wish to comment, Councillor Biggs?
Well, I think the very fact that we've got a strategy here when there wasn't one since 2021 shows that we're serious about our county farms, and it's a really good strategy which shows our commitment towards the farming industry. And we can't support, we're talking about our own farming estate. I did attend the Dorset County show, but I didn't attend other ones, I'm afraid.
Councillor Christopher, I'll let you speak again, but please, can it be a question on the actual paper, please?
Will the Deputy Leader meet with me to discuss the problems of the farming industry in Dorset, i.e. farming is hugely important. There is one farming enterprise that supplies a supermarket to the extent of its 35% of its liquid milk. It is a hugely important area. Will the Deputy Leader meet with me because the rural economy is in crisis? It doesn't just affect farms, it affects suppliers, people who sell tractors, etc. And more needs to be done.
Councillor Christopher, I'm going to stop you now. The paper is about our farm strategy.
I'm always happy to meet with anyone to discuss matters of economic growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Biggs. I'll take this opportunity to point out, I think it was Councillor Brown who was championing some of this last year. It was about trying to support our local producers. I'm pleased to say that we've now got Dorset milk in the canteen as opposed to Cornish milk. So it took 6 months, but we got there in the end. Who's next on my list? It's actually Councillor Brown, so there you go.
Thank you very much. What great news. So my name's Councillor Piers Brown. I am the ward member for Cranbourne Chase, which is the most beautiful ward in Dorset, as we know. And as the leader of the council has indicated, farming is of a great priority to myself and a good number of my residents, being particularly prevalent form of employment. There is a lot in the strategy to like, but continuing the focus of previous administrations on the purpose of county farms to support people into one of the most vital industries in our country, and particularly here in rural Dorset. There are a number of things that I would like to see changed in the strategy, but the real big one that I want to ask for the Cabinet to consider altering relates not just to the idea that we will dispose of some of the county farm estates for, and I'm going to quote here from the papers, to be used, alternatives uses by other council services or the consideration for disposal. It's the next line that I find slightly more egregious than the idea of getting rid of some of our county farms. In the case of disposals, business cases will be developed recommending a proportion of the capital reinvested into the farmer's estate. If we are going to dispose of county farms, which I don't think we should be considering, we should be ensuring that they are retained for the purpose of farming, not other council services. And if we are going to dispose of them, that capital asset should be earmarked to be reinvested into that estate. If we sell the family silver, can we at least invest in the next generation of farmers if they're the ones that are going to be paying for it?
In anticipation of just such a question, I've got a little note because I thought somebody may come up with something like this. So in terms of should we decide in the future to sell a farm, so we would follow the process laid out in the farm strategy that mirrors our recently adopted strategic asset management plan in all our decisions should there be any future disposals. We are unable to ring-fence any capital receipts, as I said on the previous question and once before. However, we will submit a business case for any identified investments needed within the farm estate. Although such a proposal may be favourably received, I'm sure it would be, it will need to be considered alongside other competing priorities faced by the council, and that's the financial situation that the council is within. But I'm sure, as I say, it will be favourably considered.
And Councillor Sumper next, and then Councillor Jesperson, and then Councillor Holland.
Thank you, Chairman. I very much enjoyed being on the farming panel, and particularly the contributions that have been made by our farmers. I think that's been really interesting to hear the angles that they are looking at it from, and I know they've been valuable for officers in forming this. And Councillor Biggs is not going to be surprised by my question because I did send him an email in advance. So I've read the strategy, and I'm very encouraged that in section 5.1, it states that the Dorset Farms estate contributes to a resilient local food system, reducing reliance on external supply chains and enhancing food security for Dorset communities. And food security is something that is going to be a growing problem for all of us as into the future. So, but at the same time, in section 6.42, the strategy commits that 70% of council farms will be managed using sustainable farming practices by 2030. And examples such as soil health, biodiversity, and habitat connectivity, also important. But what I can't see is any reference to food production or food security being recognised as part of that 70% sustainability target. So could the Cabinet member confirm whether food security and sustainable food production are intended to be included within that measure? And if not, whether he would consider making this explicit so that Dorset Farms Estate is seen to deliver both food and nature together.
Thank you for the question. So on page 421 of the report, first sort of paragraph, it says the council has an aspiration that 70% of county farms will be managed using sustainable farming practices that balance food production and nature by 2030. So I think that is implicit within there. And we're talking predominantly livestock farming within that. So it's, we got, you know, that could be rotational grazing management, husbandry, resources and energy usage, less input using solar tech and GPS, 5G technologies and things like that, and animal husbandry. So many of those practices may well be happening already. So it may be, had we got more arable uses, then that may be more of a challenge, but I don't believe that's something that we won't be able to achieve, in my view.
Are you comfortable then that that is completely and utterly explicit, that those two will be aligned, that it will be both, not one or the other?
Absolutely. And if the case where somebody was putting solar panels, we would absolutely insist that it's an increase in BNG or potential for grazing underneath panels and things like that. We wouldn't allow it to be worse than it was before if that was in an extreme situation.
I think it's probably fair to say that when we say sustainable farming, we're mostly talking about the sort of farming that the Hosfords do up at, I think it's Travellers Rest Farm near Blandford, who are an exemplar about how to do things. And solar panels also provide farmers with guaranteed income, which is one advantage. If you've got poor land, you can use that. So I don't want to start opening a debate about that, but it covers everything, I think. Do you wish to say something, Councillor Sumper?
Sorry, Councillor Somper from Beacon Ward in North Dorset. I forgot to say that. Thank you.
We knew who you were. Councillor Jesperson.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sherry Jesperson, Hillfoot and Upper Tarrants Ward, and I forgot to say that last time I spoke. I apologise, Mr. Chairman. I want to take up the question of capital investment. I'm not going to ask the question again, which I have asked twice in this chamber, about hypothecating the monies from the sale of the farm estate into the farm estate, because I appreciate that the answer to that is that we can't do that. What I would like to just make sure that all colleagues in this chamber and elsewhere are really aware of as we come in to the budget discussions, where we will be really, really under pressure, because we could spend our capital 5 times over, couldn't we, and have only scratched the surface. But the fact is that we have established in this really excellent strategy, which I'm really, really welcome, and I was very pleased to be a part of on the farm panel of drawing it together. We have established here an understanding of the important role of the county farms. We've restated that very clearly. The reason our county farms are in such poor condition, and they are frankly in very, very poor condition, is because of neglect by the predecessor council, the county council, for many, many decades. I'm going back long before almost all of us in this chamber were councillors, certainly long before I was a councillor. But we do have a responsibility now to put this right. And the only way we can put that right is by spending some money. And it's going to be very hard to make the business case for spending money on farms when we're putting that against children and adults and all those things which mean so much to us, and against our future council, which needs money in order to make us solvent. So this is a plea. Please don't dismiss the business case for investment in our county farms out of hand when it comes to budget, because there are more pressing needs. The investment in our farms is a one-off, and if we do it right in the next few years, we won't be coming back year after year for more and more investment. So it's just to say, please be really considered about the need that the county farms need for some investment, because it is this council's fault, not this council's, our predecessor council's fault, that they got into such a bad state. And we really do have a responsibility now for putting it right when we can. Thank you.
That's okay, Councillor Jesperson. Councillor Holland, you there?
Councillor Holland from Chesilbank Ward. I would say that to some degree my question has really been covered by Councillor Jesperson in respect to the fact that we're constantly saying that we're a rural county, and yet we see little investment coming into the rural side of our county. And obviously we've got the budget setting process coming along, and it would be nice to see some funding going towards our county farms in order to keep in place. So that has been sort of discussed, and I thank Councillor Jesperson for her statement. What when I was talking to one of my chair people at the PC meeting the other day, they kind of wanted to know what is the timetable. Is there a timetable for change with respect to this strategy document, or is it something that is just going to evolve? So if you have a farm that may be considered to be one that you might want to dispose of, how quickly is that likely to occur, or is that an unknown quantity at the moment? Thank you.
I mean, all our assets are periodically reviewed to examine, what's best for them, whether they're doing the objectives. Obviously, the plan itself is a 10-year plan, but I don't think there's any set program to look at them in any particular order. But clearly, we know particular farms that are more needing attention, perhaps. I don't know if any officers wish to comment.
Councillor Holland, do you wish to speak again? I don't see a hand.
No, that's sorry. No, that's fine. Thank you.
Fine. Anybody else? Any other questions? No. Council Forest strategy is obviously really important. I was at Future Roots today, which I know some of our members in the room have visited before and know the good work they do. They were talking about county farms today, about the opportunities that represents both for the children they educate and bring back into society, and also through they have a countryman scheme as well for elderly people. So there's opportunities for our farms there as well. So I think we'll just take a show of hands on this one. It's easier. So everybody in favour of the recommendation? That's unanimous. That's good. Thank you. So next item is number 12 on the agenda. This is developer contribution funding for the community facilities at Mampits Green, Shaftesbury. And this is obviously subject to a question from a member of the public earlier. Councillor Bartlett's going to introduce this one.
Thank you, Chairman. The item before you relates to the project that came to Cabinet a year ago. Members are reminded that the Cabinet approved the award of Section 106 funding to support the delivery of community facilities at Mampits Green, Shaftesbury, subject to conditions. The decision gave officers delegated responsibility to consider and approve information submitted to demonstrate the compliance with the conditions that were set. In reviewing the information, officers in consultation with myself have come to the position that the matter should be referred back to Cabinet for wider consideration, as several key conditions, including those associated with budget and project delivery, remain partially completed, therefore failing to meet the full milestones that were set. The report provides an update on progress with the project, setting out the main findings of the appraisal of conditions. As you will see, the awarded party, Shaftesbury Town Council, have made progress, but further work is needed to refine the design of the community hub facility and secure important grant funding to support the project costs, which have grown considerably since funding was awarded 12 months ago. To support this project and moving forward, the report recommendation includes an extended milestone for the completion of the information necessary to meet all funding conditions. Linked to this is a recommendation to enable a proportion of the Section 106 funding awarded to be drawn down early to support the cost of progress and design through the technical stage. Separately, the milestones for the commencement of the development has been extended. These new milestones have been set following dialogue with the Town Council about their expected work programme. It is anticipated that these new milestones provide a realistic timeframe for the project to reach delivery stage. Failure to comply with the revised milestones would result in referral to Cabinet. I propose that the Cabinet members support the report recommendations set out in the report. And I was remiss of me, Chairman, to say that I am Councillor Shane Bartlett, Cabinet Member for Planning and Emergency Planning and Ward Member for Wimbledon.
Thank you, Councillor Bartlett. I will second this one as well. Any questions? Oh, Councillor Clifford.
Councillor Simon Clifford, Cabinet Member for Finance. So when this decision first came round, I thought it was quite evenly balanced, but we went with the Town Council because they have the sort of the depth and breadth and the skills and experience behind it. We had an impassioned plea at the beginning of this meeting to say things are not worked out right, and I think that's clear through the paper. We had milestones for the first proposal when it came through. We're now saying we've got milestones for the second proposal coming through. How are we going to make it stick?
Thank you, Councillor Clifford, for the question. On page 444 at 3.13, Dorset Council officers have continued to liaise with Shaftesbury Town Council to support the project and its delivery. The communication is in a far better place than it was. There is a recognition and understanding from the Town Council of what they need to do and reach those milestones and keep the project on track. So the answer is yes, we will. And it will come back to Cabinet if those milestones aren't met. But these types of projects do hit glitches. They're never quite as straightforward as you think they're going to be. But I'm confident Town Council will deliver on the project, subject to the additional grant funding that they're receiving.
Anything else? No? Can't see any other questions? No? In which case, does anybody disagree with the recommendations as laid out? Not seeing any hands up, in which case the recommendations are approved. Thank you. So the next item is item 13 on the agenda. This is empty home strategy, and Councillor Jill Taylor.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Jill Taylor, Cabinet Member for Housing and Health and Ward Member for Chickerell. Long-term empty homes waste valuable housing and harm communities. Removing barriers to reuse helps meet housing's demand, eases pressure on new developments, improves neighbourhoods, and creates future assets for owners. Housing is a priority for this administration, and bringing unused properties back into use forms one of the strands. Dorset Council's empty homes strategy before you tonight formalises how we bring empty homes back into use and commits us to a plan. It details our progress, context, targets, and the tools, both financial and enforcement-based, we will use to achieve this. The strategy aligns the Council's housing strategy and its development plan, the Homing on Housing project, and supports the broader corporate goals of the Council. This paper has been considered by the People and Health Overview Committee on the 15th of September, and their comments are welcome. The Overview Committee requested that the empty home strategy budget is maintained and that priority is made to increasing staff capacity. This point is welcome, subject to affordability in terms of maintaining the right staff and investment levels to meet the objectives of the strategy and the Council plan. It will be noted and considered as part of the Council's planned work to prepare the budget for the forthcoming financial year and the ongoing capital programme. An empty home deprives someone of a space to live, as well as sometimes being a blight on the neighbourhood. I am pleased that we are doing strong work and establishing this further as a key strand of the housing strategy and Council plan. I commend this strategy to the Cabinet and ask you to adopt the plan and the approach as per the recommendations. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson's going to second.
Thank you, Ben Wilson, South East Purbeck Corporate Development and Transformation Portfolio. Very happy to second this. I was fortunate enough to sit on the cross-chamber working group for this strategy. I have to say, going into that, I hadn't appreciated the complexity of even defining an empty home, let alone the difficulties in bringing the empty homes back into use. Nor had I fully understood the social impact of dilapidated properties in neighbourhoods. Therefore, I think this is a very positive strategy and a positive step forward and support it fully.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I do like the second recommendation. It's Councillor Taylor putting her budget bid in already. Any questions? I imagine Councillor Hope's probably going to say something because there's a property in his ward I know that's just come back. Scaffolding went down last week. Anybody want to comment who's not in the Cabinet? Who's that? Okay, sorry, Belinda. Councillor Borden, I should say.
Hi, thank you. Belinda Borden, Lyme Regis and Charmouth. Yeah, I'm very interested in this this paper. We're undergoing a housing needs analysis survey in Lyme Regis at the moment, and as part of that, we've been trying to identify empty homes, and there are a considerable number of them actually unsold properties, particularly in one street, and obviously we've got quite a lot of second homes and holiday lets, which is a different issue. My question's really relating to the house in Bridport, which at previous meetings it has been discussed as being intended to be used as an opportunity to train people in skills for retrofitting and making the property as a sort of exemplar of being carbon neutral, and enabling people to learn on the job in doing that. But I heard this week that was now not going to happen. I wonder if somebody could clarify that for me.
Thank you very much, Councillor Borden, for your...
Borden.
Sorry, I do apologise.
Right.
It's been a very long
It's okay.
day. Thank you very much for your question anyway. Can I look into that and get back to you? I think there's still negotiations ongoing with that one, but I will certainly get back to you and let you know.
Okay, lovely. Thanks. And can I just ask, what's the best way for, because I've been dealing with our rural housing enabler who's running the survey with us, in terms of notifying the council about the list of empty properties. Should I be telling someone else about them as well?
Just a moment. I think I'm going to hand that one over to an officer because I believe you can just report them in online. Just a second. Somebody?
Stephen March, Service Manager for Housing Standards Team. If I heard correctly, we have a online reporting for empty properties. So on the website, members of the public are encouraged to report properties in their local area. Also, as part of the strategy, we will be doing additional promotion with town and parish councils to make them aware of the strategy and how they can also get involved with reporting properties in their local areas.
Thank you, Councillor Borden. Do you wish to say anything else?
No, so you want me to report them online rather than email a whole list into you?
Yes, I think that by doing that, it means it's in a central location and everybody knows about it.
Okay.
Then.
All right. Perfect. Thanks.
So Councillor Kimber is next. I think I see your hand up, Paul.
Thank you very much. And thank you for this paper. I welcome it, and I welcome the work that we are doing. By the way, can you hear me all right? Okay. And I was pleased that in Castletown we managed to open up 6 new homes. Obviously, my obvious question is we need to work further down the road at Castletown and see if we can get the other Hardy block starting to work on. You wouldn't expect this paper without that question. Thank you.
I will just come back on that. Thank you very much for your question, Councillor Kimber. The Hardy block wouldn't be part of this strategy. This is just for homes, but I'll have a conversation with you later on this. Thank you.
I can assure you, Councillor Kimber, the Hardy block is not off our agenda. We're definitely still looking at that, but nobody can live it at the moment, that's for sure. So Councillor Dickinson's next, and then Councillor Holland.
Thank you very much, Leader. Councillor Peter Dickinson, Littlemore and Preston. I would just like to welcome the strategy, but I would have liked to have seen empty businesses link in with this, because a lot of those businesses could be turned into homes again. So I would have liked to have seen the strategy go in with the economic strategy as well. And I was wondering if she could, if Councillor Taylor could look at this.
I'll give it some consideration. It's an interesting point because there are an awful lot of empty shops that could be turned into houses. Often the problem with those is the ownership and the limited work that we can do around it, but it may be something that we can look at into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. If I may come in and just comment on that, Jan Britton, Executive Director for Place. We quite often bring strategies forward to Cabinet, whether it be a housing supply strategy or an economic strategy, but we do join those strategies up together. There's a great deal of interplay amongst the officers. So housing officers are engaged in the production of economic strategies, economic officers and property and land supply officers working with housing colleagues. So if you read across from those strategies, you will find places where they touch each other and join up. So we work really quite hard to make sure that they're not produced in isolation of each other. And so if your concern is that they should all relate, then indeed we work really quite hard to make sure that's the case.
Councillor Holland.
Councillor Sally Holland, Chesilbank Ward. Can I just ask, if we have vacant county farms, do they fall under the vacant homes? Because very often they have homes attached to them. You're shaking your head, so I'm assuming that's a no, Nick. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a no. Anybody else? No. Oh, sorry, Councillor Hope, I did say you were going to speak, wasn't I?
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you very much, Leader. Councillor Ryan Hope, Ward Member for Weston Weymouth and Cabinet Member for Customer, Culture and Community Engagement. And as you alluded to, Leader, we in our ward have just seen the results of this policy from a building that was derelict, used for squatting and God knows what else in the building, then boarded up with shutters, to this week the shutters coming down, which have been an eyesore for the residents of the street, to a welcome new family home where local residents in the road were welcome to see the vast improvements, and it's been much welcome, not just by those that may be housed there in the future, but the local community. So first of all, just my thanks to the team involved on behalf of myself and Councillor Furman, my fellow ward member, and Jill, Councillor Taylor was obviously there as the process started. My question is just though, in 6.2 of the paper, it says since 2021, we've had to acquire 3 long-term empty properties and 1 via compulsory purchase order, which I believe that property I was discussing comes under. Is that number low because we're not having the reports come in, or because we don't have the funding to act on all the reports that are coming in?
Thank you. Thank you very much for your question. Could I send that one to an officer to respond, please?
Thank you, Chair. The compulsory purchase and voluntary purchase of properties, empty properties, is perhaps the exciting part of the strategy, but it's used as the absolute last resort. So the main bread and butter of the strategy is around working with empty property owners to get the property back into use. And we find that, in a significant number of cases, what owners actually just need some help, and they need a nudge and need a critical friend to get the property back into use. And that is often, all that's required. But in the small number of cases that do progress to that point, then it's very much viewed as a last resort when all other options have been exhausted. And there is sufficient. It's not limited by the budget that we have available. We do have the budget available to purchase more properties, but it's that last resort element that keeps those numbers down.
Thank you. that answer your question, Mr. Hope? Councillor Hope, sorry. Okay. Okay, Councillor Christopher.
Thank you, Leader. As ever, I always try and be constructive. Given the whole question of empty homes, would it be sensible for Dorset Council to write to the Chancellor saying the Chancellor should amend VAT Notice 708? And I'm sure most people are well acquainted with VAT Notice 708, which provides for 5% VAT to be charged on a property that's been empty for more than 2 years. Would it be a sensible idea for Dorset Council to actually write to the Chancellor suggesting that, and perhaps suggesting that she reverses the increase in national insurance for employers that has done so much damage? Thank you for that indulgence.
Thank you very much for your question. That's an interesting thought. If I can take that away, and we'll give it some consideration.
Councillor O'Leary.
Yes, I always believe in taking every opportunity to make a point. There are a number of empty homes in my ward. They're not derelict. They're owned by housing associations that are just basically sat on them and then waiting to either sell them off or eventually repurpose them. So a lot of my residents walk past empty homes owned by people like Astor, for instance, and others. There are others available. So can we please put a push on them to increase their turnover rates? Because some of them are staying empty for a very long period of time.
Thank you very much for your question, Councillor O'Leary. Can you send me the addresses on, and I'll have a look at them? Quite often, houses are empty for all sorts of reasons. So if you can send me the addresses, I'll have a look and I'll get back to you on that one.
Anybody else? No? Okay, in which case, anybody disagree with the two recommendations as set out? No, in which case the recommendations are approved. Thank you. It's Councillor Taylor again. Item 14, Dorset Domestic Abuse Strategy 25 to 28.
Thank you, Leader. I'm not going to introduce myself again because I've only just done it. Tackling domestic abuse in all its forms has long been a priority in Dorset. In 2021, the Domestic Abuse Act introduced duties for councils. These duties include establishing a Domestic Abuse Partnership Board, conducting a needs assessment for victims and children in safe accommodation, publishing a support strategy for victims and children in safe accommodation. The Dorset Community Safety Partnership serves as the local Domestic Abuse Partnership Board. This is our second strategy since the Act and is informed by updated evidence and research. It has been approved by the Community Safety Partnership and has been considered by the People and Health Overview Committee. While the legal requirement focuses on safe accommodation, our strategy takes a broader approach to domestic abuse, with an emphasis on accessibility. The government has provided new burdens funding to help deliver the duty to provide support to victims and their children in safe accommodation. As a portfolio holder and the chair of the CSP, I command the Domestic Abuse Strategy 2025 to 2028 to Cabinet for approval.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Robinson, I think, is going to second this.
Yes, indeed. Seconded.
Any questions from the floor? No. Anybody disagree with the recommendation that we adopt the policy? No, in which case it's carried. Thank you. We're getting there. So the next one, so Councillor Robinson is going to have some good news, I think. So age-friendly communities, part of the Communities for All Council priority.
Indeed. Steve Robinson, portfolio holder for adult social care, chair of the Health and Wellbeing Board, but most importantly, failed Blue Peter presenter. In the words, for those of a certain age, of John Noakes, I don't quite have time to tell everybody about age-friendly cities this evening, so here's one I prepared earlier. Dorset is on a journey to become an age-friendly county, and we want you to be a part of it. Imagine a Dorset where growing older means living better, and where every generation, disability or background enjoys life as we age. We know that Dorset has one of the oldest demographics in the UK. Currently, 1 in 3 people here are aged 65 or over. That's 30%, compared to only 19% in England and Wales. The average age of a person in Dorset is 52, with the UK average being 40. And that's why it's so important that older adults are at the heart of this movement. The work of an age-friendly community is divided into 8 domains. These are outdoor spaces and buildings. They're places that help us enjoy where we live, participate in community life and stay healthy and connected. Transport is key to getting us to where we need to go, whether for work, shopping, socialising, attending a health appointment, or just being out in the world. Housing that can help to maintain or even improve physical and mental health and well-being, as well as support independence well into later life. And social participation, including leisure, cultural and social activities in the community. These create opportunities for everyone to connect, to belong and to thrive. Respect and social inclusion to challenge ageism and celebrate the contributions of older people. And civic participation and employment. These enable people to work, to volunteer and to stay involved for as long as they wish. Communication and information is essential to make sure that everyone has access to the information that they need when they need it. And community support and health services to provide the right support at the right time in the right place and to promote the prevention of ill health before it starts. All of our work is going to be shaped by these 8 priorities, but first we want to hear from you. So we're reaching out across Dorset to listen to older people's experiences. What's working? What could be better? What do we want for the future? And it's your voice that will help shape a county-wide action plan, guiding our next steps as we become an age-friendly community. There are lots of ways to get involved through surveys, local conversations, sharing your story, and helping to grow our network. We see Dorset as a place where growing older means living well at any age and any level of ability, and where every generation feels valued and connected. Thanks, Lewis. So, Cabinet members, Cabinet colleagues, I'm pleased to celebrate our announcement today that Dorset has been accepted as the 100th UK community to be recognised with the Centre for Ageing Better. This is a key moment in the delivery of our council plan. But first, I'd like to again recognise and thank the leaders of the various parties that have contributed towards the thinking, not just of this paper, but also of the ongoing development process, and the very many different councillors who have had input into the process over the last few months. For all councillors, I'll say this is just the start, and I'm going to need everybody's help, your guidance, your support, occasionally your rebuke possibly, in the coming months and years as we work together to build on this vision. I'd also particularly like to recognise the work of the previous administration, as this effectively builds on the work of the Thriving Communities programme that they were involved in setting up and has now been running successfully for the past few months. Indeed, I heard an update a few weeks ago that we already have over 40 charities as a part of this network. And I look forward to seeing this grow in the future and include towns and village councils and also businesses. And as I alluded to earlier, chambers of commerce. I particularly like to thank Rachel Partridge, Dave Thorpe, Sarah Parsons and Sam Poole for the work that they've done in guiding this work over the past few months and years. This is already, as you'll be aware, becoming a cross-directorate piece of work, and it affects every aspect of our residents' lives. And I've been very grateful for the openness of the executive team and fellow cabinet colleagues, as well as those on the overview committee who made such positive comments. So, I should mention that this is not just about older people. Making Dorset an age-friendly county will benefit everybody. Older people, yes, but also younger people, those with infirmities, those with disabilities within our communities, and also the isolated. And of course, those who are not yet old, but one day will be. Prejudice against older people is prejudice against your future self, and that's really the vision. Every village becomes a thriving community where everybody can live with dignity and respect, where they feel safe and involved, where they're seen and valued as contributors to society and the economy, where everybody, young, old, those with different backgrounds and different abilities, everybody can enjoy life as we age. The recommendations are in the paper, and I'd like to present them to you this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Councillor Sutton's going to second. Do you have a video, Claire?
Yeah, just call me Leslie Judd. I'm delighted to second. Thank you.
Councillor Christopher.
Thank you, Leader. I noted with interest that Councillor Robinson was talking about his discussions with businesses and the Chamber of Commerce. Can I ask Councillor Robinson whether he read the report from Chief Executive of the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales, and what was his conclusions? This is a report that's had much publicity today. Has he looked at that report? It's a quick yes or no.
No, I've not had the opportunity to look at that report yet.
If he had looked at the report by the Chief Executive, Alan Vallance of the ICAW, of which I am a member, he will have concluded that Dorset, like many other counties, is particularly struggling. The level of business confidence...
Councillor Christopher, I must stop you again. How is this relevant to the paper? Councillor Christopher, can you stop? Councillor Robinson doesn't need to answer that. Councillor Leary, did I see your hand?
Yeah, can I ask, really fancy video, real swish, all that sort of thing. Can I ask what, in layman's terms, is going to be the day-to-day effect for my residents from this piece of work?
Oh, you've got me going now. Thank you very much for the comments on the video. What I would really like is that this is about how we deliver services within localities. And for that, we need ambassadors and we need local town councils to engage with the process. So I'll be asking people such as yourself, Councillor, who I know is a very strong advocate for your ward, to say, let's get some groups of people together, identify what the needs are, look at them from different aspects, so whether it's transportation, whether it's planning, whether it's communication, whether it's health, whatever it might be, and actually we find solutions that work within those areas. One thing that we've been discussing with as we've talked to colleagues in the NHS is very often the NHS has got an approach that one prescription fits everybody. And that's completely the opposite of what we want to do here. We want to have local solutions. So this is an enabling paper. It's an enabling piece of work. Things are going to look very different in Sherborne than they're going to look in Weymouth because the needs of the people are going to be different. But we want everyone to recognise the needs of people of all ages. So I could go on and on, but I won't at this stage.
May I ask supplementary, please, Chairman? What's going to prevent this from just being basically, and I don't mean this respect, I mean a genuine question, what's going to stop this from just being a talking shop about issues and actually see deliverable, tangible results?
This is just the first step on the process. What we want to do in a year's time is apply to the World Health Organization. In order to do that, we need to have evidence documents of how we have created interventions based on what local people have said that actually respond to the needs of older people and people of all ages. So that will then hopefully, well, that will then definitely have a portfolio of evidence behind it. Now, there are issues that we will have to look at about causation and correlation. That actually that we had a conversation earlier with another councillor, that actually just because we put a bench at the end of a playing field, that people, so older people who are walking their dogs, now can continue to walk their dogs without having to give up. That's helping them to stay healthier longer. It's helping them to remain part of their communities. It's creating a place where people can talk. Identifying those measurable as outputs rather than outcomes is going to be challenging, but all these interventions are supposed to be having direct positive intervention.
Yeah, who's paying for this? And if it's out, how much is it going to cost in terms of the initial setup? We just had one expensive report earlier in Cabinet. I really don't want another one for older people on the other end of the spectrum if we can avoid it. So how much is this going to cost if we are paying for it? And if not, who is paying for it?
Firstly, older people is just as valuable as anybody else. Thank you very much. I know you didn't mean that, but I put it in. This is about changing the way that we do things, not necessarily about adding to budgets. So it's about changing our engagement mechanism with communities. It's also about bringing portfolios together. So we are hopeful, although Councillor Clifford is here, I'm not committing myself to anything, we're hopeful to find savings in the way that we deliver programmes as a result of portfolios working together. But there's also examples, for example, Manchester, as mentioned in the report, Manchester has leveraged in £1.5 billion of external funding in order to generate age-friendly housing estates. There's an example in Ireland that has done the same. There are examples from around the world where these have been used as income generators because we're enabling charities to partner with us in order to apply for funding that otherwise we would not be able to apply for. So there are opportunities to turn this into, I'm not going to say an income generator, but to generate income into communities as well.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Before I go to the next question, Councillor Parry is going to be, it's Councillor Jesperson and Councillor Parry, but we will see funding hopefully from the changes through the ICBs in terms of integrated neighbourhood teams, and we've just been announced as one of the pilots for the neighbourhood National Neighbourhood Health Implementation Programme. We're one of the few pilots, so that will hopefully see money towards us, and we'll watch a space. So Councillor Jesperson and then Councillor Parry.
Yes, Councillor Sherry Jesperson, Hillforts and Upper Tarrants Ward. You mentioned when you were describing how this would impact on our community's transport for the rural village wards that I represent. That's the single most important thing you could do to improve the lives of older people. I might say that the villages, in my experience, are superb at looking after all of their communities, including the older people there. I remember many years ago attending a planning meeting where somebody from a project looking after older people was lecturing the 100 and so people in the room about how we should look after our older people, and there wasn't a person in that room under the age of 65 and many over the age of 80. And halfway through her lecture, she said, I don't think I need to tell you this, do you? And they all said, no. So the villages are ahead of the game in doing this. But to go back to transport, transport is the single most important thing that you could deliver for the older people in rural communities, and that will cost money. There's no way of doing transport to support rural communities that will not end up costing this council money. So I hope that we will just not shy away from grasping that slightly tough nettle, because it's going to cost us money and we won't necessarily get funding support from it. So thank you for your report and thank you for mentioning transport. And could I just put a little, I was going to say flag in the ground, perhaps flags are controversial, but a little stake in the ground now on behalf of rural transport. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jesperson, Councillor Parry.
Thank you. In the discussions around older residents, of course, what I would like you to put into that consideration is that due to advances in medical care, there are now many retired people looking after their equally retired parents, or indeed vice versa, if the child has grown into an adult and lived into retirement age. I'm well aware of a lady who was well into her 90s who was caring for her son who had additional needs in his 60s in my own ward. And certainly when you talk about transport links and things like that, that must be considered. But also the burnout rate
on carers. You know, respite care is typically sort of £1,600 a week for a reasonable standard of residential care. That is beyond the affordability of an awful lot of people, and we need a very serious conversation about how we provide that care. On a slightly lighter note, I do hope you will indulge me, and I'm seeking the Cabinet members' approval here for the West Parley Volunteers, who are a very active group of retired pensioners, retired people, I should say, who go to great lengths every week to undertake maintenance of things in the playgrounds and the litter picking and the verges and all sorts of things around the West Parley village. When the parish council issued them with high-vis jackets, it did, however, lead to them being stopped and asked what did they get done for, and what for the community service they seemed to be serving. They got done for nothing apart from being really good people who've done enormous good in the community and, of course, saved this council an awful lot of money on Virgin Highway maintenance. One last request. Dropped curbs and better quality of pavements. The one thing I consistently get comment and feedback from residents of things like mobility vehicles and walking frames is that, unfortunately, the standards of some of our pavements just are not good enough for them, and we need to make that a priority. And when we talk about our active travel lanes, we often talk about cycle lanes. Actually, a lot of mobility users benefit from those as well, and we need to ensure that that is considered as part of the discussion.
Thank you, Councillor Parry. Do you wish to respond, Councillor Robinson?
I'd love to. Absolutely. Totally 100% on board with everything you say. I think it's worth mentioning that a lot of the stuff that we're talking about is already being done within one community. We just don't know about it. So some of this is just about learning what's going on in your own ward, for example, and then rolling that out as an example of good practices in another area. It doesn't cost anything other than a few cups of coffee. So yes, and please pass on my admiration for your volunteers in West Parley.
Councillor Borden, I think I see your hand up.
Thank you. Yes, Belinda Borden, I'm Regis and Chalmers. Yeah, could I just add to what Councillor Parry has just been saying? So I think that my ward has the oldest population in Dorset. I think we're at 40%. And it's also one of the hilliest. But on a particular point that Councillor Parry just made about broken pavements and just the general difficulty of getting around and the difficulty of trying to do something about it. I don't know if there's a way we can expedite that process in Dorset Council, because I've been advised I could do an accessibility survey, but then I'd need to have a bunch of volunteers with a range of different mobility challenges to come round with me. And it's very difficult to organise volunteers to do that. I have tried a few times, and I'm just wondering if there's can we look at a quicker way of, you know, even if I'm just sending photographs in and saying, please, could you help with these pavements, which are basically impossible to walk on if you have any sort of mobility challenge. Thanks.
Yes, indeed. I think every area's got its own issues. By the way, 40%, I think we have some wards with over 52, 53%.
Okay.
But wherever it's one of these things that every area's got the worst of something or the best of something within the county. I think it's about listening within communities and then finding ways to respond. Some things we'll be able to do quickly, other things we'll have to line up on, because there is the reality of budgeting, there is the reality of working together, there is the reality of working things out strategically. But yes, my passion is that we don't just age, we age well. My passion is that we don't just age, we age healthily, and that every person we have in this community aids in a thriving community. And that involves not just being stuck in a home, it involves being able to access services, it involves being able to talk to others, it involves being able to talk to others of different generations, and it involves being able to be in control of the things that happen to us. All these things I am passionate about, and so yes, I join with you, and I look forward to together planting stakes in the ground, waving flags, whatever is required to get things happening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Borden. Anybody else? No. Oh, Councillor Christopher again. You had one go. Is it relevant?
No, it's not about dairy farms, really not about dairy farms, but it's basically finishing where we started in my comment to Councillor Robinson, because there are a great many people who are over 65 who want to work, but ultimately, because of the state of the economy, they're not going to be able to do what they want to do because of economic circumstances. And that's what we need to recognise as a result of this government.
Yes, Councillor, I absolutely do recognise that. I totally agree. I was involved in a partnership in Portugal a while ago about intergenerational businesses and growing new businesses between the wisdom of age and the energy of youth to create new businesses that were quite statistically more successful than traditional businesses. And also I was in talking an instalment a few years ago, particularly to Holland and Wolff, and other employers about the challenges faced by ageing employees and how they can stay in the workforce for longer and how to be an age-friendly employer. So there's an awful lot of work to be done, an awful lot of opportunities, but also a lot of models to learn from as well. So I take on board what you say, I agree with what you say, and I think we need to find solutions together to get there.
Shane, Councillor Bartlett.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Robinson will be aware that we met with the officers around the design code that we're doing. So currently at the moment, we are developing the local plan with the cross-party EAP, and we are also got a cross-party EAP that's working up the design code. And we met with Councillor Robin to have a discussion around that as to how that design code will influence future developments concerning our elderly population, so the care homes and the retirement villages that we're seeing coming forward. I think it'd be news to Councillor Robinson that I am intending to do a site visits on care homes as to what we've built, and that will come as news to the officers as well, because I haven't had an opportunity to tell them yet, but that's what we're intending to do. So we've just done one where we visited several housing estates to see what the build-out quality was like, various different types of housing estates. We'll do the same with the care homes, so we can go through that learning process. We'll take our consultants with us, and that should inform how we do the design code and the future developments that we're going to bring forward in that will feed into the local plan and give us that future proofing, hopefully, of delivering the right type of housing, the right type of retirement villages and care homes that that elderly population needs going into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bartlett. Councillor Hope and then Councillor Clifford.
Thank you very much, Leader. First of all, I think I welcome this with great enthusiasm. Sits well within one of our top 4 priorities, as Councillor Robbins has said, communities for all. My question is around this. This really, similar to our Armed Forces Covenant, is an overarching document around this council's beliefs and values when it becomes age-friendly as a county. The same as our Armed Forces Covenant says how we will work and respect veterans and armed forces personnel. And quite often, I know we've been in the chamber before and we said, what does it mean to actually sign the Armed Forces Covenant? Show me examples of what we're actually doing that ticks the objectives. And that's a similar thought process that I've got here with this. This could be a fantastic piece of work. And as well as Dorset Council implementing its values in what we do, we need to be pushing these values out to our local communities. Councillor Robbins has mentioned the voluntary sectors and getting them involved, but I think equally is our employers, our businesses, because there is a shortage of skilled workers, and if businesses can become age-friendly, both from a consumer point of view, making sure that their premises is accessible for those of all ages and so on, but also as an employer, because there are so many of our residents that want to keep working, want to keep contributing. So my question is, there's obviously hopefully going to be an action plan that sits behind this. This isn't all just going to be around age-friendly within Dorset Council's future development plans and policies and processes. Is working with local businesses to become age-friendly, to support us as an age-friendly council on the cards?
Yes, indeed. And in terms of communication, we have plans to develop something called a Dorset Declaration for how we will engage, and that's an ongoing piece of work. Councillor, absolutely correct. This is definitely not the end of the story. It's just the beginning. And we have vision, and we will be laying in place over the coming months and probably years the enabling papers to get things happening.
Councillor Clifford? Ryan, do you want to say? Go on, you can come back, sorry.
Can I thank Councillor Robinson for his response? It's really good news to hear. We quite often hear, and as we've heard from some people in the chamber tonight, the scaremongering that Dorset's economy is doomed. But actually, I think it's quite the opposite. I think there's opportunities for everyone, and I think this is a perfect scheme to help open those doors to opportunities for all Dorset's residents.
Thank you, Councillor Hope. Councillor Shepherd.
Councillor Simon Clifford, Cabinet Member for Finance. So I've like everything that's in there, and I think actually there's a lot of cross-party support for it. I think it will be helpful as a few projects land that we can start to define exactly what the impact is going to be and where the push is coming from. I want to shamelessly plug two charities who I'm sure Councillor Robinson will be involved in, but one, the Leonardo Carers Trust, which has just recently received a significant legacy and gives grants to unpaid carers. And I think if anything does nothing else from this meeting but pass the fact that Leonardo Carers support is out there and ready across all of Dorset. It's based in Poole, but across all of Dorset for everyone's residents to access. Please make use of it. And of course, Age UK in Dorset, who are, I hope, integrally part of the thinking behind this plan, who do such great work. And I know that, Leader, you've recently had a sit down on a sofa and a chat and experienced the work they do. And I'd like to think that this council will continue to support with its utmost capacity the work of the voluntary community and social enterprise sector, which does so much fantastic work for us and will be much of the delivery of age-friendly in Dorset as it goes forward.
Again, yes, and there are so many charities, some of them quite big, like Leonardo, like Age UK, but I was at a meeting, might have been yesterday, might have been the day before, where we had many of the smaller charities that come along that just help people with just cooking skills, but actually help people have chats, help people have a feeling of self-worth, self-identity. There's some really good stuff going on in Weymouth at the moment. But there's also charities that help people just visit hospital, provide lifts within to appointments and things. Shopping trips. Asda in Poole provides a little minibus that goes collects people just for, I think it's a Wednesday afternoon, just so they can do some shopping and it's a little bit quieter and there's no electronic tills, everyone has a cashier. Little things, little adjustments that can be made to actually create a life that people enjoy and appreciate. So yeah, recognising the work of the big charities, but also all the smaller ones as well, and how we want to be able to support all of them.
I'm not seeing any more hands up. That's been the most number of questions on any paper tonight, and all positive. So thank you, Councillor Robinson. Councillor Robinson mentioned earlier the work of the previous administration in building the foundations for this. It's probably only right that we recognised Councillor Jane Somper, who's in the room tonight, for her part in that. So thank you. Let's go for a show of hands. Let's get ourselves moving. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. So that's the end of the papers in the public session. The next item is urgent items. There aren't any. And then item 17 is exempt business. So for the members of the public, we do have one paper, which is an exempt. So the live stream will stop in a minute, but I first need to read out the gubbins. So the recommendation, I'm the wrong gubbins. So the recommendation for this is that in accordance with section 100A brackets 4 of the Local Government Act 1972, to exclude the public from the meeting for the business specified in the item below, because it is likely that if members of the public were present, there would be disclosure to them of exempt information as defined in paragraphs 3 of Part 1 of Schedule 12A to the Act, and that the public interest in withholding the information outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information to the public. So can I have a proposer and seconder for that, please? Councillor Sutton, Councillor Bartlett. So anybody against? Should I ask that? No. In which case we'll just pause for a minute while the live stream is stopped.